It's not every day that you get to have an award-winning actor, writer, director just be your friend. I got on this morning. We started chatting. I started chatting with my buddy Joseph, and he is unbelievable. I was telling him that he is one of the guys who's doing what most people talk about. His IMDb list is long. I had to scroll about 20 times this morning to look at all the projects that he's done. One of the hardest working men in showbiz, and what I love about him most is his heart. I asked him if there's anything that he wants me to cover or promote or anything like that. And he said, you know what? I just want to have a conversation with you. The vibe will take it where it needs to go. And so he's not about the self-promotion part of it. He's about making other people great around him. I got a chance to be able to meet him at a Christian film festival out in Atlanta. And I mean, this man is an absolute superstar, been in Hollywood for years and years, but he treated everyone else like they were the star, like they were the ones that were on top, like they were the ones that were the award-winning actor, the writer, the director. He took time with a young lady that was sitting in the front row, and she had just wrote her first screenplay. And you could tell that maybe she didn't have the funding that she needed, and maybe she was just starting off, and I could tell this because she had told me this at lunch. But Joseph didn't treat her like that. He treated her as if she was Steven Spielberg, as if she was George Lucas. And he sat with her and he gave her advice, spoke life into her. And it was incredible to be able to see the way that he treated her, to be able to lift her up. And she walked out with her shoulders back. She was so excited and she had hope. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring him on the podcast, because this man brings hope to so many people. You're not only going to hear about his faith, but you'll see it more importantly. Mr. Josef Cannon is, I think, probably one of the most impactful people there in Hollywood. And that's why I'm so excited to be able to share him with you today. So why don't we get this party started?
Achieving, cause we believing it's for certain. We put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting right before your eyes. So it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never know, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Shining light on every other person in the world when the world is shining light on you. Joseph, welcome to the podcast. Why is it so important for you to take a young lady, that young lady that we're talking about that had that screenplay, and for you to speak so much life into her? Why is that so important to you?
Because I think I was in her shoes once upon a time. You know, as a young artist, we all need someone to extend a hand and give us some words of encouragement, some guidance. There's many times I think about individuals who could have said something to me and didn't. And then there's times when individuals did say something and I knew the effect it had on me. You know, they probably didn't realize it was just in passing for them, but it was so monumentous that as my career has grown and flourished to a certain degree, I knew how important that was. And I just hope that something that I said, something I was able to convey, will allow her to believe and know that what she is desiring to accomplish is doable. And I think sometimes all we need is someone to instill that belief in us. Because I think most of us we second guess ourselves. And I was proud of her to step forward in that environment with all those many people and cameras and everyone around, and to pretty much just bare her soul. So the least I could do is to encourage her and let her know that everything was going to be okay. She just got to stay the course.
In your profession, my daughter is just now exploring the arts. I think I told you about that. But to see a man who, when I listed off the IMDb, and I'm not joking on this, I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and I joked with you and said, "Is this one of the Dead Sea Scrolls?" Like, I mean, this is a career that I mean, I looked, and this wasn't the last, or this wasn't the first one, but when I looked, one of the dates on it was 1989. We're talking about a 30, almost 40-year career, right, of working in that industry. And the key word with actors is working, right? Like a working actor like yourself. You're working on a new project that just got released called Fire. How exciting is this for you as you move forward? And, where does it rank for you as far as the project that you've done?
Fire is an amazing piece. It just premiered February 1st. It's a limited series done by Ray Wilson. And I was very honored to be a part of that film with some amazing actors, Vincent M. Ward, Shireen Crutchfield, Gerald Slink Johnson, Angie Fisher, who was nominated for a Grammy. And so, when you're in that circle, and Shireen is a singer herself. And so I was just blessed to be amongst such a fantastic cast.
So take us back to young Joseph, because I remember, if I told my parents were very, they were very supportive. But there's that kid that will be like, oh, every kid is like, they'll see a movie. We saw the Karate Kid back in the day, and all of us were like, we're going to be Ralph Macchio. And, we get the pat on the head. Yeah, okay, that's cute. And then you kind of move on. You have created one of the most decorated careers in a profession that most people would say that's like winning the lotto, right? That's that part. Talk to us about young Joseph going into the arts and how you were able to sustain when that's not a normal thing, especially for a man to do, to walk into. But a lot of times people don't maybe take it as serious when you're talking about a profession.
Well, when I was a kid, I had a speech impediment. So I hid behind the written word. I mean, I stuttered horribly. And a lot of people that went to school with me, elementary, high school, even in college, didn't even realize that, because I found a way to kind of camouflage it. I would always read ahead, or I would prepare like a script what I was going to say, and kind of knew that certain things could and couldn't roll off my tongue. And so when I felt comfortable, I would say it. When I didn't, I would keep it quiet. So writing was literally the genesis for everything. My mom, she was a projectionist in the movie theater. So she would take us, myself and my sisters, with her to work and put us in our pajamas. And we watching film after film after film after film. And so I would come home, and then I would start to put down pen to paper, different ideas, different stories. Being in front of the camera was the last thing on my mind, especially having the speech impediment. So I was just concerned with just telling stories. I love observing. And that was the beauty about being in the projections booth with my mom. I was able to not necessarily just watch the screen. I would look at the people down below. And so I would watch their reaction. So I knew how certain words or how a certain performance would affect a certain part of the theater. And so 90% of my concentration, the first time, because I would watch a movie 4 or 5, obviously 6, 7 times. So the first time I would literally just watch the audience reaction. I wouldn't even look up at the screen. Then the next time I would just close my eyes and just hear it, just listen to it. Because everything in life, I believe, conversation-wise, business-wise, just everything comes from a listening standpoint. And most of us don't know how to listen. So as a young kid, I would just close my eyes and hear what the actors were saying. And then I started to visualize it. And then when I finally watched it, I wanted to see if how I saw the scene matched how that particular director saw the scene. Sometimes it did, sometimes it was so far off. But then that began this pattern, and I would sit there, and I remember I had a bunch of friends over one time, and my grandfather, who asked my friends, he says, look, it's getting late. Spanky. That was my nickname, Spanky, like just like from Little Rascals. And he was like, "Look, Spanky, it's time for your friends to go." So they left the house, unbeknownst to him. So he comes back about 20 minutes later, and he hears all these voices in the room. He still thinks my friends are there. So he bangs on the door. He goes, "Yo, Spanky, I told you your friends have." And he looked around the room and he didn't see anyone. It was just me making all these different voices. And he turned to my grandmother and he says, "I think this boy needs Jesus. Something's wrong with him. He needs an exorcist. I mean, he's possessed." And my grandmother then later on, she called me in the room and I was feeling a certain way. And my grandmother, she really knew what to say, like I think every grandmother does from time to time. And, she got that little Southern twang. She goes, "Baby, they paying people out in California to do what you're doing here for free. Don't let anybody tell you anything different." I was 8, maybe 9 years old, and I haven't looked back since. So that was the beginning. That was the genesis of it. Having grandparents and parents who they fostered this passion of mine, this dream. They never told me not to do it. But then again, it didn't matter because my grandfather, again, throughout this whole podcast, you're going to hear me mention my grandmother and my grandfather ad nauseum. So everyone out there, be ready. You're going to hear a whole bunch of grandpa-isms. And one of the things that he talked about was how, we all have a tendency of saying, even as adults right now, we talk about how if you have a dream, you don't share it with anyone. A lot of people have that belief that you don't share your dreams with anyone. My grandfather was different, because a lot of people believe if you share your dreams with people, they can indirectly or directly try to destroy it. His belief was, if someone can destroy your dream wasn't big enough. You have to have a dream so huge that, first of all, they don't even believe you're going to make it, let alone have the idea to try to stop you. And I'm listening to him, and it makes so much sense. So much sense. No one tries to destroy someone who they don't believe can achieve it.
Wow.
So you make your dream so far out there. He would say, put your dream on Pluto. Put it on Pluto. They have to build a spaceship, get someone to fly the spaceship. I mean, it's so much work that they have to go through just to get to that planet, to find out what your dream is, even try to destroy it. He goes, make your dream so big that no one even believes that it's attainable. Again, I took that in, and it allowed for me to navigate the waters without. The only thing that got in my way was me. My biggest problem was always Joseph. There was really no one else really got in my way because, again, first of all, remember, I'm the dude that's stuttering. No one's expecting my stuttering behind to be up in front of the camera. No one's expecting that. So, again, you make the dream so far-fetched in the minds of others that you can go on your journey and no one's paying attention to you.
When did you get in your own way?
When didn't I? It happens in college for sure. I think I went to college on a basketball scholarship up to North Dakota. Uh-huh. And, I'm still friends. Yeah, North Dakota. And there's a lot of friends I still have today from my years up there in North Dakota. And the interesting thing about it was, when you have confidence in yourself, and I had confidence in my abilities, but I didn't control. See, by that point, by the time I got to college, I was able to kind of sometimes control the stuttering, which meant I was able to talk. And sometimes I was talking too damn much. And so I would point things out. Like if the team was losing, I'm on the basketball team. If the team is losing and I'm on the bench, logically speaking, it didn't make sense to me why I'm not in the game. Because obviously what you doing ain't working. And instead of just thinking that, I would occasionally say it often. and it didn't bode well. But again, to show you how the universe works for you. So I get kicked off the basketball team, and I remember so clearly. I was so devastated. I get kicked off the basketball team, and I don't think I was wrong. I truly believe I should have been in the game all the time, but my approach. So I get kicked off the basketball team, and I'm walking to the cafeteria, and I'm feeling like sad. And this one assistant coach, he smoked a pipe, and he had a curly afro. White guy had a curly afro, and he walked up to me, and again he had a southern twang. He's like, Joseph, the cream always rises to the top. And I'm looking at him, and he says it again. I got tears in my eyes because I just got kicked off the team, and my whole dream of all my aspirations was out the window. He goes, Joseph, once again, the cream always rises to the top. Now I'm sitting there, I'm just, late teens, and I'm thinking to myself, why is this man talking to me about coffee when I just lost my dream? See, I didn't understand the metaphor. I didn't understand what he was trying to get across to me. The cream always rises to the top. I'm like, why are you talking about coffee, man? I just got kicked off the team, and you talking about a latte. That's the way my brain was working. I didn't get it. But then I thought more about it when I got back to the dorm room, is that it doesn't matter what happens. If it's in you, you can rise above it. Wow. So then the track coach who saw me on the court, I had a long gait, I'm very tall. So I ran like a horse, or the black stallion, as they call it, because of my stride. And he had me come out to run for track. And I never ran track before a day in my life. But I knew I didn't know how to quit. And see, you start to discover certain things about yourself. Even though I'm a team player, more so now than I ever was before, it took me to be in the activity that was individually based. Because sometimes, whether it's the coach that didn't like the way I went about discussing how horrible the team was at the time, like he convinced you, and you can't play no matter how good you are. But if you're a tennis player, you're a golfer, you're a track runner, they can't stop you. Once that gun go off, once they put that ball across the net, once they put that ball on the tee, it's just you against the world. And that's what track gave me. Track gave me the ability to just be Joseph. And the only thing that could stop Joseph was Joseph. So that was the beginning of me understanding the only thing that could stop me was me. Because, it didn't matter if the track coach didn't like me. If he did or he didn't, it wouldn't have mattered. Because once that gun went off, it was me and that half-mile run or that quarter race or that relay, nothing else. And that was refreshing. And then you take those lessons from track, from sports like tennis, from sports like golf. There's some sports that I think it gives you a single-minded focus. Uh-huh. You don't have to worry about following someone else or someone not liking you or you saying the wrong thing. You can, they can despise. Trust me, I don't think golfers really like Tiger Woods. They just couldn't stop him. Same thing with Serena Williams. She wasn't really welcome into all the circles, but they could not stop her. And so when you learn that about a dream, again, going back to what my grandfather said, if your dream is so big, no one has seen a Serena Williams before or Tiger Woods before, because their dreams were so far-fetched to the masses that by the time they realized they were that good, it was too late to do anything to stop it.
Wow.
So, and then my grandmother, she talked to me about this thing she called the 3 H's. She goes, that's the key to anything that you do in life. There's humor, humility, and hunger. You have to have the humor to be able to laugh at your foibles, at your mistakes. So many of us, especially in our industry, we worry about what people think. And if we make a mistake, we take it personally. I laugh at me harder than anyone could ever laugh at me. I am the biggest clown. I really have no problem at laughing at my mistakes. It actually, it helps me to realize that life happens and you just laugh about it, no matter what it is. Then the humility part, again, I learned that in college. Getting kicked off the basketball team, something that I really wanted to do in my life. But I realized that being kicked off the team was the best thing that ever happened to me because it allowed for me to go into track, which subsequently taught me about having such a single-minded focus. And so even now, I acknowledge the mistakes that I made in college. I could have handled it better. I could have just shown that I should have been in the game by practicing hard. And I didn't, because I had a problem with empty stands and empty stadiums. So I think deep down inside, I was always meant to be in show business, because if I walked into the gym and we only had a few fans, I just couldn't get up for it. I'm like, no, this is not what I do. I don't, huh? Is the time wrong? Did people realize the game's at 7:30 and not 9:30? Because I'm looking around going, where everyone's at, And so, but I knew my play got better when there were more people watching.
Wow.
Because the stakes are higher. The stakes are higher. And to this day, I'm still the same way. The higher the stakes, the more I'm able to stay even keel. I love it when everything is on the line. My heart rate slows down. It slows down to like a single beat. It's like boom, 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 boom. And I hear nothing. And again, that goes back to my grandfather, who would take me to the park and we would get by a tree and he would ask me, what do you hear? And me being the smart aleck kid I was, I go, I hear traffic. I hear you breathing heavy. What do you mean, what do I hear? He goes, no, close your eyes and tell me what you hear. And I didn't get it at first. And then after a while, I started to hear the fluttering of a butterfly's wings, the buzzing of a bee. And so little by little, I realized how I could control what went in these ears. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So again, I incorporated that into my life, into my career. There's certain things I take in. There's certain things I block out. Wow. And it allows for me to take that journey. And that's part of the humility aspect of it, And then finally, the final of the 3 H's is hunger. And that's my favorite one. Because if you're not hungry enough, no matter what your dreams or your desires or your aspirations are, you're not going to make it. You can just forget all about it. It's kind of like when you were a kid and you run to your parents and you say, Mom, Dad, I'm hungry. And they fix something. And you're like, I don't want this. And my mom would say, well, you're not hungry then. You just have a taste for something. There's a difference. Know your hunger. Know your hunger. Know exactly what it is you're hungry for. And then you don't settle for anything less. And so that's what my grandmother repeated to me. Humor, humility, hunger. And I've taken that from a young kid on the south side of Chicago in Inglewood. And I brought that with me, like I said, from Inglewood to Hollywood. I've taken those 3 H's with me. And I continue to live by that. It just drove me. And then I remember when LeVar Burton was doing a film in Chicago. And he was filming right up the street. It was the autobiography of Ron LaFleur. He was a baseball player who had gotten to prison for an incident. And he ended up being discovered by the Detroit Tigers while he was in prison to play professional baseball. So they were filming this up the street from my house and asked my grandparents, could I go watch? And I get there. And this is right after LeVar Burton had finished doing Roots.
Yeah.
So for those of you who aren't familiar to Roots, it's Wakanda forever, but a real Wakanda. No, Wakanda ain't real. I mean, Roots is Wakanda, but a real Wakanda. Yeah. And so LeVar Burton was basically Chadwick Boseman at the time. I mean, he was the you-know-what. And he walked out of this bar on the corner, and all the fans were gathered around and watching them film this movie. And he comes out and he points. Now, my version of the story was he pointed directly at me. And I'm going to stick with that to the day I die because that's what I felt. I felt like he took that baton and he handed it to me. You know, he could have been pointing to his assistant. He could have been pointing to craft services. But in my mind, he was pointing right at Joseph. And basically, he was handing me the baton to say, it is your turn. And I remember grabbing that baton in my mind and then running with it. And I'm still running with it until I can pass it on to someone, whether it's that young lady that was sitting in the front row that you discussed, or whether some of the young actors I'm working with now on another project that we're going to be doing in North Carolina. It's you pass it on and you just keep doing what you're doing. And, you know, life has a funny way of working out from that little kid. And then every step of the way, you try not to get in your way, but you do inadvertently. I mean, one of the biggest things that I got in my way, I think I talked about it at the event that we met at. And when I first moved to California, I live in Marina Del Rey and I'm out by the water and living life. And my friends came to visit me. So we were driving home. It's like 3:00 in the morning. And I pull up to this traffic light. And this convertible blue Bentley pulled up next to me. And in it was none other than Jean-Claude Van Damme. Man, the muscles from Brussels, you know, the dude with the splits. So he pulls up in the car next to me. It's 3:00 in the morning. I do a double take. And I'm like, oh man, this is JC. So I started talking because I don't know how long this light gonna last. So I'm gonna get as much time in as I can while we at this light. So I'm like, yo, JC, look here, man. I'm from Chicago. I'm out here in California trying to do the Hollywood thing. I said it just like that. I'm trying to do the Hollywood thing. And do you have any advice for me? And he was kind enough. We literally sat at this stoplight for about 25 minutes. The light turned from red, yellow to green, back to red, yellow, and green. It just kept turning and turning and turning. And we sat there. And he listened to me. And as I'm telling him how I'm trying to do this, you have any advice? And he tells me how he came to America, could hardly speak any English, which ties in with me and my stuttering. And then he says, look, I only had a couple $100 in my pocket. And I had my faith. I had my desires, my hunger, and I wouldn't let anything stop me. So before we left, you know, like any actor, you had a headshot in the backseat of your car. So I reached in the backseat of my car just in case, and I pulled it out. And I look at man, take this. One day we gonna work together. He said, I hear you, sir. Right? I said, no, sir, I'm seriously. One day we're gonna work together. He's okay. I'll be looking forward to it. I said it the third time, so I know he probably thought, you know, I don't know what's wrong with this kid, but I heard you the first time. And he was very kind. And then later on, I thanked him and he drove away. Years later, 8, 9, maybe 10 years later, because I had taught early in my career, taught school, and I also was working at bars, you know, as a door guy, checking IDs and crap like that. And one day I'm at this bar and a gentleman comes up to me. He goes, hey, are you an actor? I'm like, I got a flashlight and driver's license in my hand. What do you mean am I an actor? What's going on with you? Oh, yeah, I am. You know, he goes, why else would I be here, man? Come on. And so he goes, look, I'm working on this film, and I would love to bring you in to audition for it. I was like, yeah, whatever. So he leaves and walks away, and I'm continue going back, checking these fake IDs and looking at people who were too old to even be going back out to the bar. Some of the folks, I'm like, look, why are you here, man? Go home with your grandkids. That's the way I felt for some of the customers. But anyway, the guy comes back, and he has this script, and he hands me this script because now I'm serious. Take a look at this script. I'm going in here to have my dinner with my friends, and if you are interested in auditioning for it, this is the character here, Bobby Jackson. If you're interested in the audition, let me know before I leave, and, you know, cool. So I'm looking at it, and as I just get ready to walk away, I go, oh, by the way, who's starring in this? He says, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, it doesn't register to me that this could have been a very serendipitous moment, because it had been 9 or 10 years ago since I had that conversation with Jean-Claude in the car. So I was like, because at the time when I saw him in the car, he was at his height. Okay, he was at his Van Damness, as they say. And so now it's 10 years later, not so much. And so when he told me it was Van Dam, and this is where I say we sometimes get in our own way. I had the audacity to say, well, you know what? I'm going to take a pass on this. And I tried to head him back to script. And my buddy, who was a bartender, he's listening to me. He's like, I could see out the corner of my eye, he's leaning forward like, what are you doing? Tim McCauley is his name. He's leaning over, and I'm like, no, I'm going to pass on this. The guy's like, keep the script. Thank you anyway. And he left. And my buddy Tim looks at me. He goes, did that dude just offer you an opportunity to possibly be in his film? I'm like, yeah, man, but it's John Cloud, man, and I'm trying to do the Denzel thing, man, and I'm doing all this. He goes, you're checking IDs, Joseph. Why are you blocking your blessings? You're checking IDs. You got either people too old to have their ass in the bar or too young to have their ass in the bar. That's your job. Your job is to sit here and check these IDs, and you turn down an opportunity to possibly be in some film and do the career that you've always said you wanted to do. And Kelly, when I tell you, I felt as dumb as a bag of rocks. I was like, wow, I just got in my own way again. So I go home, I throw the script on the table, and it's like the script is talking to me. It's saying, open me. So I open the script up, and I'm reading the character. And this is like the main character opposite John Claude. And I'm sitting there going, oh, man. Each page I turn, I'm like, oh, man, I messed this up. I'm flipping page after page, and I'm like, oh, Joseph, you blew this. What are you thinking? You blew this golden opportunity. 3 weeks go by. And in between those 3 weeks, I'm still reading this script as if I'm doing the movie. I'm still coming up with ideas for this character. This character is a paraplegic, is in a wheelchair. So I'm coming up with ideas for a part that I turned down. But my mind was telling me, for some reason, keep thinking about it. 3 weeks later, guy shows up back at the bar again. He goes, look, I know you told me no before, but we haven't found who we were looking for. Before he can finish his sentence, I says, yes, I'll be more than happy to come in. Fast forward 3 weeks later, I'm off to Asia to film this movie for about 6 or 7 months with John Claude. And I get there. And just when you think things couldn't be any greater or the opportunity is like, oh my God, I can't believe that I almost blew this. So I get there. So I'm doing the film with him and we're having a great time. And 2 or 3 months in, by the time he got comfortable with me and I got comfortable with him, and now he went from being Mr. Van Dam to JC, because, after a few months, you become buddies when you're on the set, right? So I'm like, yo, JC, look at it, man. You may not remember this, but years ago, we met at a stoplight. A bunch of people pulled up and were screaming at you. And he was like, Joseph, everyone screams at me at a stoplight. It's not the first time. I'm like, no, but I was special, man, because I was screaming at you at that stoplight. And he's like, okay. I said, I told you that one day that we were going to cross paths. He didn't say anything. He left. 2 weeks later, I go in my dressing room. That headshot I had given him 10 years ago, he had found it in his garage somewhere, had it flown over to Thailand, put it in a frame, and he wrote on the picture, I told you I'd never forget a face. And I remember I said to him, I said, look, I told you I was going to be here. He goes, I know. I've been waiting for you. What took you so long?
Wow.
And sometimes you have to slow down long enough to hear what the universe has for you. And from there, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity found its way into my lap. And again, I went back to my grandfather's philosophy of just slowing down long enough and hearing the things that you need to hear, and black out the noise. So,
Joseph, how can a person slow down when they're, in the actor side? Most of the time as an actor, you're going to be waiting tables. You're going to be, a bouncer. You're going to be a bartender. And you're doing this to be able to kind of almost get through, to be able to get to that opportunity. How can a person slow down when everything else in the world will tell them you've got to survive, you've got to speed up, you've got to do these things? How can you stay in that place during the tumultuous times?
I think it's easier because if you ever worked at a job that you didn't like, if that didn't motivate you, nothing would. So the best job for anyone to get that's an artist is a job they don't like. Because if that doesn't push you to attain your dreams, then your dreams weren't that important in the first place.
Damn.
Be someplace you didn't like. I hated being there checking IDs and being a school teacher with somebody's badass kids and and crazy parents that want you to pretend like their kid is the second coming of the king or queen. I'm like, man, I love teaching. Hated the parents. So it wasn't the kids that were bad, it's the parents that was getting in your way. So again, the parents, oh my God. They were like, they thought that they had a private tutor. I got 25, 30 kids in my class. Your kid is one of 25. I'm going to give them that love, but they one of 25, And so it was being someplace where you really don't want to be full time. Now, I would sneak out at lunchtime and go to auditions.
Really?
I would take a lunch break, hop in my car, drive from Westchester in Los Angeles to Century City. And if you know the distance between the two, it's impossible to drive from one place to the other at noon and get back on time. Man, I'm zipping through traffic, going to Burbank, going to Disney, Warner Brothers and all the different studios, Paramount, and I would take off at a lunch break in a minute. But the great thing about the one school, my favorite school I taught at was the Scuola de Montessori. And they knew from the very beginning that the acting was what my passion was. And they encouraged me to do it. I told them, but see, I made it so where the deal was kind of fair for everyone. I said, look, if I have to miss time for any project, I'll pay for the substitute teacher. I even had my assistant the entire time I was teaching. I was paying her. So even if I had to leave for a few days to work on something, the kids still had the continuity. So I was responsible enough to make sure that the kids weren't affected by my choices. And then the school wasn't affected because I paid for the substitute. But I didn't let anything stand in my way. I think so many of us will take a job that we don't like and we worrying about the finances. If you do what you're supposed to do career-wise, I think the finances will come. Will there be some struggle sometimes? Absolutely. But you have to love it enough. And, I don't think I'm the most talented. I just don't know how to quit. You talked about my IMDb and the red and the Dead Sea Scrolls. It is because the other people said no. Other people were like, they too were getting in their way, like I did that one day at the bar.
Yeah.
But I had a good friend like Tim McCauley who brought it to my attention. Now, not everyone has people in their life that reminds them that, hey, you're blocking your blessing. I was lucky that day that he was there and he overheard it. And he brought it to my attention. He said, Joseph, you want it too badly and you're too good at this. And you literally had an opportunity that could have led to something. There was no guarantee I was going to get it, but at least try. And to this day, he and I laugh about it, and he's still one of my dearest friends and someone I turn to when I need advice, because he showed me back then, 100 years ago, it seems, that he had my best interests at heart. So I trust him pretty much more than anyone else at this point in time.
So, Joseph, sometimes you have to take a job just to get another job, right? And you've experienced this in your acting career. So it's not like not every role that you take is the John Claude situation or the Paul's Promise situation, right? Sometimes it's taking one to be able to get you through. As an artist who leads with their heart, who wants to do the right thing, who wants to, have passion about what they're doing, how do you reconcile that concept of taking the job to be able to get to another, and especially encouraging like young actors right now that maybe are in that spot where they're saying, this role really isn't for me, but they'll get in their own way?
Well, I realized early on that every job I took had a purpose behind it. And the purpose wasn't for the money they were paying me. The purpose was for me to be able to film on their property and not spend money to do so. So I would take a job at a bar, do a great job, befriend the owner and say, look here, man, I want to shoot this little project. They're going to trust me because I've already shown. So instead of me having to come up with money to rent a bar, I'm basically being paid by the bar to shoot my projects. I did that with, there's not one project that I've done myself that did not have elements that wasn't shot at that job. When I was teaching, when I was at bars, and some of the churches I go to, it's no place where I'm not going to film at. Wow. Because I'm going to create the stories that I know I want to tell. And so a lot of times when I hear people and they talk about the funding, and for me, it's, yes, there's funding, and funding is very important to have. But sometimes you take some crazy glue and some duct tape, you can put together a beautiful ship. You just got to know how to do it. And so I've learned how to take some crazy glue and some duct tape and piece together some things that gave me an opportunity. Oftentimes when I'm asked, what's your favorite project you've ever done? And my answer is always the same. The next one. The next one. So you go out and you do things, or whether I'm in the bar and I'm shooting the scene within that bar, or whether I'm in the classroom and I'm using the school ground to shoot something, I'm using that to build, to go do something else. Because if you walk in, a lot of times, see, there's a catch-22 in Hollywood. You can't get a job unless you have something on your resume. And you can't get anything on your resume unless you get a job. So I would shoot things. And here's the thing, too, that I think a lot of young actors don't understand. No one is really looking at the entire movie. I don't have time to watch my entire movie, let alone someone else. So people just want to see, A, that you have some chops, and B, that you were doing it. So just go do the best you can. I just don't understand today's generation, because when I was shooting, we didn't have these cell phones. We didn't have the tools that this generation has to film. And so if you are of today's generation and you don't have films and scenes in your arsenal, my humble opinion, one of the H's, my humility, you are a lazy ass, because there's no reason why when you have one of these and you can't film a scene, not you and your mama arguing, your friends, you can't come up with one 30-second clip. You're not thinking properly. And there's so many things that are given to us, and I try to tell actors, even when I said to the young lady at the event, I was like, grab your cameras, grab your phones, grab your friends, and film everything, everywhere, all the time. Nothing bugs me more than to see a young actor in today's world that does not have a clip during Christmas time. And the reason why that's my pet peeve, because here in the United States and all around the world, there is a 30-day period where you have a fully decorated set anywhere you go. Wow. Every city in the world has Christmas decorations. So how in the heck don't you have a clip of your ass doing something during Christmas time? And because it's Christmas time and everyone is recording all the beautiful lights, You could be filming your behind off, and no one is ever questioning that what you're shooting is something that can help your career. So I think every actor, if you don't have a Christmas project in your arsenal, you need to reevaluate your priorities. Because the world gives you the perfectly decorated set for at least 30 days. If you're out the country, if you're here in America, it starts at Thanksgiving. From that first turkey drumstick till you're kissing somebody on New Year's Eve, you have at least almost 8 weeks that you could film any and everything. And at least get you started. You know, you create the jump start. And then once your brain starts moving and your mind starts clicking, then you find different ways. You know, I wear every hat. I write, I direct, I produce. Everything. And we talk about Paul's Promise, this film right here, that I won so many awards for as an actor, which is actually ironic and funny as heck because I met with them as a writer only. They were doing this film based on a true story about the first integrated church in the South. And they needed someone to come in and do the punch-up of the script and kind of focus on the Black character. So a friend of mine, Pete Casper, he heard about the film and he says, look, I know the perfect writer, Josef Cannon. They invited me in to come in and give some notes about the script. You know, God has a way of opening doors in ways that you never imagined. On this particular day of driving out to the valley, I was going along PCH. And it was the hottest day, I believe, in California history. And also the day that my air conditioning on my car decided not to work. So here I am. I went earlier that day and I got my hair cut like I did today. You know, it's all right and everything and sharp and had on my suit and my tie. So I'm driving down PCH, heading up towards Malibu, and I'm sweating nonstop. The water's just dripping. So each mile I'm taking off my clothes, I'm taking off my jacket, I'm taking off my shirt. I mean, I was literally at one point I was driving in my underwear. True story. I'm in my undies there, Kelly. If the police had pulled me over, I don't know how I could explain why I'm driving in my drawers, but it was that hot. So I pull up to the side of the building by the time I get there, and I give myself a bird bath. I got some bottles of water in my car. I'm sprinkling water everywhere, trying to cool off this heat. And you know, if you ever been to the gym and you leave the gym, you're still sweating. Sweat still is just running down your face. So I finally go inside, and as I'm talking to everyone about the script, as a writer, sweat is pouring down my forehead. And I'm wiping it away. I wish I had windshield wipers on my glasses because I'm wiping it away nonstop. All the water just dripping down my forehead. What was supposed to be a 15-minute meeting turned into a 3-hour meeting. I leave, and I end up going to France where I was doing a World War II film. And so at the time, I was completely clean shaven. My hair was high and tight, just like a soldier. And so again, I went in, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way they're going to bring me on and help punch up the script because I'm dripping water on all the pages. I mean, everything in there, water just flying everywhere. And I'm going, my God, this could not be more horrible. So I'm away in France, I'm doing the film, and I get called from my agent saying, hey, that project you went in for, they are thinking about having you star in it. And I was like, no, Paul's Promise? He goes, yeah. I said, no. I met with him as a writer. There was some misinformation. I met with him as a writer. We didn't discuss anything as an actor. They go, no, I'm looking at the offer right here. They're considering you to be in it. I was like, but we talked about writing. So I'm thinking it's a mistake. So I'm at home and I'm telling my mom about it. I'm like, Mom, I go in for this meeting as a writer and I'm sweating. I'm putting water everywhere. And, you know, between me stuttering and me sweating, it was an ugly scene. I'm like, Mom, but then they call me and say, hey, we want you to be in this. I'm like, there has to be some mistake. And my mom said, baby, God don't make mistakes. Okay. So I go and do the film. The film ends up being a big hit. I win so many awards, Best Supporting Actor, pretty much everywhere we went. And as we're doing the press tour, we're going around all around the United States and around the world, basically. And I'm still curious on what made them decide to switch and pick me to be in the film. So as we coming down to our last press tour, I'm sitting around and I'm talking to the producers, Ryan O'Quinn and Heather O'Quinn from Damascus Productions. And I was like, look, I'm curious, man. Why did y'all pick me when I came in as a writer? They said, well, when you came in, you were so passionate that you were sweating everywhere. So they thought my perspiration was my passion. And so, hey, God works in mysterious ways. And we're here because of that. So,
Joseph, did you have, like, being in Hollywood, especially early on, when you go from Inglewood to Hollywood, when you get out there, did you have the point at which you said ever, hey, maybe this isn't for me, and then you have a call with grandpa or grandma or your mom, and they kind of push you through?
There is an individual who knows me as a kid that could tell you I wanted to do anything but this.
Wow.
Now, I also played baseball. So some of my friends said, we thought that baseball was going to be your path, but we also knew about this. But no, there was never a moment when I needed to be talked into. This was me. I knew early on. I knew it was just figuring out how I would get there. And I think that's for all of us. I think we all have a passion for something. The biggest challenge is figuring out, how do we get there? How do we get there? I remember I was dating this one young lady, and her father called me the biggest opportunity. He goes, Joseph, you're an opportunist. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of raw. I'm like, wait a minute. He goes, no. He goes, no. I mean, it's a compliment. I'm like, yeah, I get it. He goes, no, I really do. I really mean it's a compliment. He says, because if you look up the true definition of an opportunist, not the one that we've added the extras to, he goes, the true definition of an opportunist is someone who takes advantage of the opportunities that presents itself.
Yeah.
He goes, we've given it a negative connotation. We made it something negative. Oh, he's opportunist, she's opportunist. No, there's someone who sees a door opening for them. Wow. And if you enter it with integrity, there's nothing wrong in being opportunistic. And so I still think about that. So I see opportunities. I see things that are there, like filming in the classroom or filming at the bars that I'm working at. I've had many people say to me, why are you working at these bars? I'm like, brother, free production value. Free. You think I need to work at a bar, man? Do you not how many degrees I have? You think I need to work at somebody's bar? Trust me, there's a method to this madness. Same thing with teaching. There's a method to the madness. You get in there, you have access to these different things. Wow. And then you find ways to shoot. I mean, I can't help, no matter where I'm at. I see that my father, God rest his soul, passed away a few years ago, and at his funeral, I'm sitting there with my nephew, and the sunlight was beaming in through the stained glass church windows, and it was hitting my dad's casket. And I turned over to my nephew, and I'm like, look at nephew. Look at that scene right there. All we need, and my nephew was looking at me. You know, he's a Grammy Award winner. I had to give him his plug. Preston Prizzy Reed, my Grammy Award winning nephew. Anyway, he turns to me, he goes, oh, at the funeral? I was like, hey, vision does not stop because my father passed on. My vision don't stop. My production company is called Cannon Vision for a reason. The vision never leaves. So no matter where you are, you'll see an opportunity. And as an artist, this is something I think every artist needs to embrace and realize. We are the only group that has an adjective that describes our hard times. Starving artists. No one says starving doctor, starving lawyer, starving fireman. Starving artists makes sense. We hear that. That means that we are willing to do without to do our work. We are willing to do what we love for free until we can get a pay for it. There's something special about being an artist. And again, as my grandfather said, you show me a starving artist, I show you someone with poor marketing skills. So you also have to promote yourself. Now you can see it's okay with having dreams, but you got to be able to promote yourself too. So I think it's more than just the performance. And I think that's the thing that young artists don't quite get.
Uh-huh.
They're so entrenched in the artistry that they forget the business part. Why do we buy Charmin toilet paper? It's not because it's the best. It's because those darn commercials with that fluffy little bear tells us to get some Charmin. Same thing with Frosted Flakes. There's nothing worse for our kids than a big box of sugar. But because Tony the Tiger said it tastes great, the kids are going to want it. The parents are going to put it in the golf cart or the shopping cart. Well, I do the same thing with my projects. I promote I'm a marketing, you know what? Because I realize if people don't know what you do, they have no reason to think of you when it comes that time. I saturate all my social media platforms with my work. I know some people are going, Joseph, we tired of seeing your ass putting stuff up about what you're doing. But my response is, you're not the one that's going to give me the job. So your opinion of me does not matter to the people who gets it and who understands how business works. You want an actor who is going to help promote your project. Why do I want to have 5 actors who just want to shoot their film or shoot their part and disappear and don't want to be part of promotion instead of getting this one person over here who promotes their behind off? That helps me. It helps them. It helps everyone involved. So we have to be more aggressive when we want to do, and it's not just in the arts. I think it's any aspect of life, but definitely with the arts. Definitely with the arts. I mean, people talk about, I have my private page and my public page. You won't have a private life once you get in this business. Once you get into this business, that's why it bothers me when celebrities have someone pass or something happens badly in their life. You always get a press release saying, we ask that you respect our privacy. You didn't want privacy when you needed the press to talk about you. Think about that. So I'm willing to leave doors open because I need these same people to buy what I'm selling, to go see my movies, to go see my projects, and we have to understand the business aspect of it. So if you need them to write about you and discuss your projects and everything that you're doing, then you have to be willing to give back and be just as open and I think vulnerable enough to share things that you may not normally want to share. So that's been my secret.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even call it a secret. I just think that's just the way to be. I can't have you come on board to help me, but then turn around and say, well, I don't want to discuss that.
Yeah.
So
what about let's talk about the writer part, because I have a friend, his name is Torthel. He's a writer out in Las Vegas, and unbelievable writer. He just had a book come out, and he did the book because he's working it into a screenplay and working that way. I've heard him have conversations about, he met this person or knows this person, but most of the time what I see is, and I saw this with you, and I heard this with you with your stories, is most of the time it's not the person that you would think that is going to create the opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. It's not because you could go to a networking event tomorrow and be with the biggest directors or whatever it is in Hollywood, but a lot of times it's the guy that was at the bar that you didn't know, that was sitting next to you, that heard your conversation. Can you talk a little bit about that, especially going towards writers and how to be able to encourage them as they move along?
Yeah, I think it's we have this thing about, I don't want to write for free, or I don't want to do something for free. And I find it very interesting, but those of us who have a gym membership are paying money to go to get better, right?
Uh-huh.
Why not do something for free if you can to get better? It's all about getting better. It's all about getting better. Okay?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to me when you could say I could spend $100 to go to this gym to use their equipment so I can get a better body. So you're paying to get a better body, but you can't work for free. I'm confused. I'm confused because if some projects you have to do for free, some projects, like for example, some of the best people I've met, I met them at a stage when they couldn't even buy me a piece of bubble gum. But now they're running Hollywood. And we having lobster with bubble gum. You know, but I was on board when there was nothing. And vice versa. There's people who have worked with me, and I can just order some pizza, and you know, I could even get a 6-pack. I had to get that 1.99 2-liter, and we had paper cups, and we all shared it. But they believed in what we were doing. So I think sometimes, as a writer, you build your story, you write it, and then you put it aside. Again, your best story you haven't even written yet because you haven't even thought about it yet. A lot of times we take these scripts and we hold on to it tightly, like it's mine. Bro, come on, man. There's not much you writing is brand new. There's only basically 7 to 8 stories you can tell. All the stories are the same. You just have to find a different way to tell it. You just have to find a different way to tell it. But it's basically all the stories are the same. I'm tired of signing NDAs. I'm like, if I see another darn NDA, I'm like, your story ain't that original, brother. Come on. Why are you trying to get me to sign this darn NDA? I'll sign it, fine. But you act like you came up with something that no one has ever thought of before. Everything that's out there, every film, every book, every story, there is nothing original. You just have to find an original way of telling it. Mm. But there's only so many stories. So to writers, you keep writing and then you put it down and you go do something else. Because if I wrote about my life and I stopped with me getting kicked off the basketball team in college, then that's that story. But if I kept going and then I stopped after I got the film with Jean-Claude Van Damme, then it's that story. But then if I kept going and I finished after I started winning awards, then it's that story. If I stopped when I did things about my daughter and the things that occur in that dynamic, then that would be that story. So sometimes you have to realize that the story isn't written. I mean, if I had a penny for everyone that came to me and said, I think my life story should be a movie, and my response is, you're not dead yet. So your story is still yet to be written. You know? So what makes you think you just got a third of your story? Your story is just going to get better. You know, I don't stop because sometimes you have to have things in your life that have happened to you that make you realize that the rest of the stuff is just nonsense. My daughter, unfortunately, was abducted at the age of 4 and was missing for about over 8-9 years. And the first child abduction law in the history of America, was named after my daughter and a young boy, the Sinclair Cannon Child Abduction Prevention Act. And I mentioned that to say that when that happened in my life, it made everything that I thought mattered not matter at all. And if you're a parent, is the biggest fear that you can have is knowing that something can happen to your child. So everything else was irrelevant. And I remember when my mom and I were sat and we talked about it. And she said to me, she goes, baby, this couldn't happen to a better person. I'm like, what do you mean this couldn't happen to a better person? She goes, look, you in Hollywood. You get told no every day of your life. Do you think someone can tell you no and you not being able to find your kid? She goes, you are more prepared for this than anyone I could ever imagine. And so I started using the things that happened in my life. I knew that if I went in and talked about my daughter was taken, I need help in America, African American child, I'm not going to get a lot of help. But if I walk in there with my Hollywood ass, all of a sudden, I got the speed pass to the front of the line. Wow. So I use my resources. Every article you read, it starts off with Hollywood actor, Hollywood writer. And my friend said, doesn't it bother you that they don't say good father? I said, brother, they talking about me. That's the adage in Hollywood. Good press or bad press, you just won't press. I just needed press to write about my daughter and her being missing. We fast forward 8 years later. A lady was on vacation to Scotland. I did an interview with Pierce Brosnan and the governor at the time, Gray Davis in California. They were at an event for the anniversary of the law that we had passed, and took some pictures with Pierce, and a reporter who had been doing stories on my search for many years did a story on my daughter and put Pierce Brosnan on the front page. And a woman on vacation to Scotland was in the airport when she read this Irish newspaper and saw the picture of my daughter and recognized her as a little girl in her son's class in Liverpool, England. Oh my gosh. That's how my kid was found. And so you don't know where the opportunities can come, whether it's for your craft or it's to find your child. You just use your resources. You use your resources and you trust your gut. And then you realize what you think matters. There's some things that matter way more than that. And when you make the main thing, then nothing else can stop you. You know, so everyone has something in their life that can help them recalibrate what's important. For me, it happened to be that. Before that, I thought being kicked off the basketball team was my worst problem, right? See, it's all about perspective. You couldn't have told me that day when that coach started talking about coffee and cream, that was not the worst day of my life until my kid became missing. You couldn't tell me when I passed on those auditions that wasn't the worst day of my life until my kid became missing. So we all have that moment that we need to tap into that is bigger than us. And when you find something that's bigger than you, then everything else is a piece of cake. Getting your script done, getting your script sold, getting your movie made, getting whatever it is your desires are. You find that one thing, that north, as my grandfather calls it. What's your north? He would always say. What's your north? And you need people in your life that's going to walk with you, help you and guide you to get to your north. As long as you know what your north is, you can't be taken off track. You can't get me going east, west, or south. I know where I'm going. You could be my best friend. You could be my lover, my wife, my husband, whatever the case may be. If you're not going north, this is where we have to part ways. And you have to be willing to part ways with people who aren't seeing your north. You can love them to death. There's some family I love more than life. I just got to send their ass a postcard because I'm not getting on track. It's just that simple. I love y'all, but here's a postcard. That's the best I can do. Because I can't get off track because I know what my north is. And as long as you know what your north is, whether you're a writer, whether you're a father or mother looking for your child, it doesn't matter. If you know what you're trying to achieve in life, you keep your eyes on that prize. You just don't say the catchy phrase. You live it. You don't let anything stop you. You don't let anything stop you. I mean, at one point after she was found, I ended up moving to England. Before I moved to England, I had to go there and deal with situations and the law over there to bring her back to America because she had a different name that was taken from a graveyard tombstone. And the fact that I didn't live in England, I had to hop a plane every week to fly to London. So to show you how little jobs would work, I'm doing door guide stuff. I'm charging people to come into a club that didn't even charge a fee. Okay? I would create a line. It'd be 5 people inside. I'm creating a line because I know if there's one thing about people, especially in Hollywood, they are impatient. Everybody wants to feel special. So they want to walk up and put something in my hand so they can go inside that empty ass club. I'm like, no problem. My boys were like, what are you doing? I'm like, trust me. I got to get my ass over to London for my kid. So I would create a line and say, wait, don't let them in yet. The owner would come like, trust me. I need to give me this. Give me this. Because they knew my situation. So I'm not asking you to fund me. Let me do what I do best.
Yeah.
So I create the line. There's always that one dude that wants to walk up there because he's trying to impress the ladies. You know, he's walking up. He got 5 women who normally wouldn't talk to him, but because there's a long line and he said he can get them in, they're going to walk with him. So he walks up. Now, I can give him whatever price I want. He's going to pay it because he doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of these lovely young ladies. Yo, my brother, how much it is for me and my fine young ladies here? I'm like, you got 6 people with you, bro. I know you balling big time. I whisper in his ear. He puts something in my hand. I'm like, wait. I don't even look at it, Kelly. I'm like, no. I don't take presidents, man. I don't take presidents. He's like, what do you mean don't take presidents? I don't take presidents. And one girl leaned over and said, Ben Franklin is not a president. He only takes hundreds. Ben Franklin is not a president. So I don't take presidents, man. Don't give me no Lincoln, no Washington. What? No. And that's what they would do. I would take that same money and on Monday, put my butt on the plane, use that to get my lawyers, use that to do whatever I needed to do. And so you find a way. The same way I shot those films in those studios and at those bars and classrooms, I figured out a way how to find my kid and get my kid. That's with anything, though.
So what would Joseph, what was the process then? Because the normal person here in the story, your daughter is abducted. She's away for, is it 9 years total or is it 8 years?
Yes, 8 years.
So 8 years, they find her from a listener or onlooker's perspective. We're thinking, okay, they found her. Awesome. You just go, you pick her up and you bring her back home. But that's not the case, right?
No.
What did you have to do?
Because it was in a different country and because because of the sex trafficking and different things that's going on in the world, people want to make sure you are who you say you are. Want to make sure that, so many things are transpiring. I could have been a father that sold my kid to the sex trafficking. So people got to make sure these things before they relinquish. They're just not going to be like, here, take this young lady, here you go. And then they end up putting her in a worse situation than she was. So everything they had to do their due diligence.
Was this a family that had adopted her? Or was this the abduction family?
For that
had her in Europe?
No, it was the abduction. It was a different family that had her in Europe. It wasn't the abductor. The abductor had pretty much vanished.
Because I would be thinking, Joseph. I mean, you said earlier that your gait, you were fast for how tall you were. I've been around you. I probably wouldn't want to have a confrontation with you. I was very nice to you right when I met you, right? So, and I'm thinking as a dad, I've got a 13-year-old son, I got a 16-year-old girl. I'm thinking the first thought I get off the plane in England and I see my daughter, this thing isn't going to go well for the family.
Yeah.
How
But
did you deal? How did you deal in that scenario?
because it wasn't about me.
Mm,
It wasn't about me. That was the life that she knew for 8 years. That's why I ended up moving there, because instead of me uprooting her from what was her reality, even though she was living with different identities and names taken from the graveyard tombstones and all that crazy demented stuff, I I knew it had to be bigger than me, because this is all she knew. And so it's easier for me to be uprooted until there was a time and period where she may be comfortable in making that transition and coming back. So you have to just do what's in the best interest. In that case of your child, in certain cases, the best interest of yourself. So it's just making the decision, because it never got about me. I think that's what it was. I
how
never
did
thought about
Joseph? How
me
did you explain it to her? Because at the time, she was abducted at 4, right?
at 4. I found
At
it 11,
4.
12, 12.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
at
found it.
4, you have some bit of memory, whatever it is. But then, if that becomes your reality, by the time you're 12, almost 13 years old, like you're the stranger when you come in. Like you as dad is the stranger.
Right.
How did you know how to communicate this to her?
You don't. It's. I mean, there's no class or book that you read or study. You just you do what you feel. You just try to share love. You try to get them to the point to where they see something in you that makes them feel safe.
Yeah.
You know that uh, there's a lot to process. I mean, that's things that I haven't processed yet. Imagine being 12 and you have to understand all these different things.
Yeah.
So it goes back to one of the H's that my grandma talked about, the humor. You just laugh. You find things and you just laugh. You sit and you laugh. And there were moments where we would meet up, and as we arrived together, we would dress exactly alike, and neither person knew what the other one was going to wear. And I think that was the thing, that moment for sure was the moment where she was kind of like, okay. And we literally just showed up. We both had cut off black shirts, cut off sleeves, blue jeans, ball caps on, and we literally showed up that way. And we looked at each other and just laughed, and we just used humor. And it's still, you every day is a new day, because someone has gone through something that I can't begin to fathom. And so you just can't make it about you. You Even though there's moments where you just want to kill anybody who had any hand in it, but you realize at the end of the day, you just hope your child is healthy, happy, and safe, as best possible. So you just you navigate it, and then she's a film director.
Yeah.
So
So
she's
Joseph,
done her own.
if you don't mind me asking too, is how did the other family react?
Well, it's confusing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so you just try to do. You hope that everyone can do what's in the child's best interest.
Yeah.
And so that's basically it. You just hope everyone can do what's in the child's best interest, and you move on from there. I mean, I could spend hours being angry, but that's not going to change anything. You just want to make sure
Yeah.
that the child is healthy and happy in whatever fashion that can be.
How were you able to control because we've all got that friend, either that friend, that uncle, or whatever. I've got a guy named Craig who's a friend of mine. He's the History Hunter on the History Channel, and he was on Pawn Stars. And
Okay.
now Craig He's the world's foremost expert on World War II memorabilia, and so he's a gun guy. He's a whatever. And he told me one time, he's in my men's group. We just had it just right before we did the podcast. And it's a group of guys. We come together every Tuesday. We pray together. We center everything around Proverbs, and we, spend time together. But he pulled me aside one time, and Craig's a pretty serious guy, but he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, just want to let you know, if you ever need me under a bridge at 3 a.m., I'll bring a shotgun and I won't ask any questions." And I was like, it scared me at first. I was like, man, we're a men's group right now talking about Jesus, and this is what you're saying to me. But we all got that friend.
Right.
How did you curb that? Right? Because I was thinking about the scenario. Craig would have been like, okay, I'm going to be on a flight before you to England. I'm going to be there. Don't ask any questions. Just look the other way. How were you able to do that part? Because I heard about grandmama, and I heard about grandpapa, and I heard about your mom. Most likely, that wouldn't have been a good scene.
No, but that person is my dad. My dad, and he had passed on. I also had a stepfather. My stepfather was the man I talked about at his funeral with my nephew. That was my stepdad. But my biological father, now that's the man that keeps a shotgun down his pants leg. That's the man. Now, all my friends know, I say, if my father was alive, this would have ended in 30 seconds. Because he's coming in taking everybody out. He has no problem. That part of me, and you know how in life, I think we all are one giant gumbo soup, right? We just different bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And I know where I get certain pieces from. My kindness is my grandmother. My ability to just process things is my grandfather. My style is my stepdad. My take no BS, that's my biological father. Now, if he was around, this would be a different interview. It would have been, first of all, you probably be interviewing me from cell block H. That's what the interview would be at. Because he would have had me there with him, and both of us would be in sharing the same bunk in some state penitentiary, because he would not have tolerated that, because that was his grandbaby, and So to the people, they're lucky that my biological father had passed on before, because it would have been ugly. It wouldn't have been pretty. So, again, this interview wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have met you because I know him. I know him. I've been it wouldn't have been pretty. So, because he's not having that conversation.
Well, when we go, hey, Joseph, when we go back to the 3 H's, right? When you go back to the humor, humility, and hunger, we go back to that, and you look at it. How could you, as a writer, as a producer, as a director, and as an actor, how could you twist this story and be able to put it into a consumable place where a person would, where is this going to become a movie?
It's a book already, and finished the book a long time ago, but I've hesitated on pulling the plug because it's not my story to tell.
Got it.
It is and it isn't. From my perspective, it's my story to tell, but I have to do, and what I've done thus far is what's in the best interest of my child.
Yeah.
I've been approached a lot from different entities that want this to be a project, and it has crossed my mind. Yeah. But it's again, you want to be able to tell it correctly, and as I said before, life's still life right now.
Yeah.
So the story isn't finished, and so if that time occurs, then I think with anything, you have a moment where your gut lets you know when it's time to do something.
Okay.
And then you just do it or you don't do it. And so right now, I'm just following that old adage. I'm just trusting my gut. And if my gut says, "Hey, this is the direction to go," then I'll jump into it and I'll go and see about getting it done. But right now, I have so many other things that I'm doing, and also too, you want to make sure that if you were to do something like that, you can do it. And I'm not have nothing against Lifetime or any of these
Yeah.
other things, but you want to make sure if you're going to do it, you want to be able to do it correctly. So, because of the important aspect of the story,
Yeah.
so I'll keep doing my projects,
Yeah.
keep allowing people to see my artistry, and hopefully be in a position that when I decide to drop this in front of someone, it's let's do it. So it's not going anywhere because the story's not going to change. The
Yeah.
law is out there. The
Yeah.
law is going to outlive all of us.
Yeah.
So it's still there. And it's doing its thing, and I'm happy about that. And and special shout outs to Larry Sinclair Senior, uh, who drafted the law up, and it was named after his child, who was also taken, and was kind enough to have my daughter's name attached to it because of the marketing.
Yeah.
It goes
Yeah.
back to marketing again. At the time when he was trying to get the law passed, he didn't know the marketing aspect of it. And then he meets me, and I'm a marketing guru, and so it was a marriage made in heaven. I don't know anything about drafting laws, but he didn't know anything about getting the press. So, you know, combine the two entities, and yeah. So, special shout out to him for sure.
As an artist, Joseph, when you take different stories, right? And I always think about like some of the whether it be comedy, drama, whatever it is. A lot of times it's taking a ounce of the reality and then adding what needs to happen. Like you were talking about, you're a marketing genius. When you see a story, say, and I'm using your daughters as an example, do you take pieces of that to inspire you to do other projects that wouldn't be about your daughter, but you take the pieces of it? Like when you were describing your dad, I was thinking about, oh my gosh, in my head, I was thinking, wouldn't it be phenomenal to have Joseph as a character? He's this guy, does the things, and then there's these challenges, and every time he has to hold his dad back. In my head, I'm thinking an ounce of it, right? An ounce of that part. Is that what you do as a writer?
Absolutely. I think everything for an artist is something they pull from.
Mm.
You know, all you have to do is ask Taylor Swift's ex boyfriends. Every song, every song she's written is about somebody she dated. So people inspire you. So you go take some things, and it's going to bleed into your life. I don't care who you are as an artist. If you're a painter, you're going to paint something. You're a sculptor. You're a dancer. There's something in our lives that play a part in creating that artistry. A lot of country music comes from pain and comes from some experience that singer or that songwriter thought of. And then somehow or another, whether they wrote directly about it or they able to tap into it. It's like I can tap into, it's funny, my manager always wants me to play. She goes, "Joseph, you always play these serious roles." I'm like, "Have you looked at my life? Have you looked at my life? Why are you shocked that I can do some real heartfelt, deep stuff? Have you not paid attention to my life? Ain't too much comical about it." And so I save the comedy for my personal life.
Hmm.
Anyone who knows me, I'm the biggest clown, the biggest kid on the planet. As my grandfather said, never lose that 8-year-old kid in you, and I haven't. But you won't find too many projects where I'm smiling.
Really?
And I like that.
Okay.
I like that because I'm able to pull from the different things in my life, whether it's being kicked off the team of my own doing, but it still pissed me off. But it was of my own doing, and you able to pull from those things. The stuttering, the thing that happened with my daughter, the thing with John Claude, the different projects I've been blessed enough to do. Working at bars and people wondering why you here. I'm like, bro, you don't understand the method to the madness. And it's again, people walk right past you because see, When you're a door guy, you are the least important person at that bar because people just need you to get in. So they smiling at you. They really don't care about what you're doing. And it also made me realize something because when I was writing while I'm at the bar, I'm still presenting scripts. And this is something I think every artist needs to understand. Grandfather, another one of his special stories. He goes, it's imperative to understand how people see you, but that doesn't mean that's who you are. Case in point, when I'm at the bar and I'm working, they have no idea this is part of my madness. So I got scripts and projects, and I'm talking to people about this project. But to them, and it took me a minute to realize this, I'm just a door dude. It doesn't matter if I came up with Shakespeare or the greatest play or movie or show on earth. If you met me checking IDs, you only see me as your ID checker. If you met me as your child's school teacher, because I taught a lot of celebrities' kids, you only know me as Mr. Cannon. Oh, now Mr. Cannon trying to be an actor, Mr. Cannon trying to be a writer. You know, I taught all the Wayans kids, all the very people, all the children. I taught all their children, wonderful families, but they saw me as their kids' educator. So you have to be clear of how someone views you. So I think the best thing that happened to me, I remember the last time I worked at a bar, I had some family come in from London, and we at the supermarket, and this girl sees me in line. She goes, excuse me, you're an actor? I was like, well, yes, I am. I'm glad you recognize me, you know. And it could have been more perfect timing because my friends were in town from London, so it's like it was giving me some street cred, right? So it was so perfect that she recognized me. And as she got up to the corner, she goes, I know where I know you from. You're the door guy over there in the marina. Kelly, man, I quit the next day. I ain't been back because what happens is that hit me because my grandfather had said it for years. It's imperative to understand how people see you. Now, granted, I used it to my advantage to film and create things, but I also created a different perception of who I was. You just a door dude. So I had to separate that. Going back to the marketing aspect of it, that's why every single thing you see on every single page of mine, on every single social media platform, it is my work, my work, my work, my work, my work, my work. I may say happy birthday. I give everything 24 to 48 hours that has nothing to do with work, and then I take it off. I'll talk about something with my family. I say something very, something special in my life. It gets a 48-hour window, and then it gets hidden. It gets put in the archives. If you go through all my pages, you will see nothing but everything about the work because you want everyone, I feel. So when someone's in the room, we've often heard it's important. It's not about who you know. It's about who knows you. And do they discuss you in rooms that you are not in? Wow. Positively. So my goal is to have people be in the room and someone starts to mention a particular role. And then someone like my friend Pete Casper did when they asked about a writer. He goes, I know just the perfect guy for you. And that led to Paul's Promise. You want people to be in the rooms to discuss you when you're not in those rooms in a positive light. So you want to, but that all starts by laying the foundation. So when they speak up for you, it's easy for people to find out who you are. It's like no one should have to go looking for you when you're submitting something about yourself. I hate when people say I have a project and then they give me 25 links I need to click on to get to them. You got to make it idiot proof. You have to make it idiot proof. If you want people to see what you're doing, you have to literally put it right there in front of them where all they have to do is go boop, because our attention spans are so short right now. Yeah. We have so many other things we're trying to take care of. Now, I can give you 2 seconds. If you tell me click on this, I can click on it and be like, oh, okay, cool. But if I have to click on this link to go to this link, to go to this link, to come to this link here, I'm not doing it. That's any of us. We're not doing it. So you want to make it easy for people to see what you're doing artistry-wise, even if you haven't got there yet. Have everything else up. Show them that you're going in that direction. You don't necessarily have to already be there. You know, a lot of the stuff I've gotten is because people saw something in me that I didn't even know they saw. I think about the World War II film that we did. And I work with this director, Jesse V. Johnson, amazing director. I've done so many films with him now. The most recent one was in Budapest, Chief of Station, with Aaron Eckhart and with Karolinko. So when I did Hell Hath No Fury, a World War II film, there was an interview that he did afterwards. And the director, the interviewer asked him, when you wrote this movie, did you have anyone in mind? He goes, yes, Josef Cannon. And Joseph did this thing for me in this other film. The other film was called Debt Collectors 2. And it's my first film with him. And there was a scene in there where my character dies. And if you're an actor and you die, and it's at the end of the movie, not the usual black man die in the first 30 seconds. It's something where you're at the end and you're a vital part of the story. So I'm like, oh man, I got to make this the best death scene that they would want to bring me back on something else. So we get there and I'm focusing on this death scene. I'm not focusing on anything else. I don't care about the rest of the movie. I just can't wait to die. Because I'm going to give you some Al Pacino type death. Some Scarface where he comes out, you know, cursing people out. That's in my mind how I see this death scene changing my career. So my first scene had nothing to do with dying. It's me in some restaurant having a conversation. And I'm just sitting there. I'm not even thinking about those lines. I'm just saying whatever. I can't wait to get to my death scene. Now, if you ever did a film and the film is running behind schedule, sometimes the producers and directors start to get rushed. As the film gets later on in production, what they had allotted a week to shoot, they now shooting it in 20 minutes. Now, I was supposed to be able to have 3 days to die. Now I got 3 minutes to die. I'm like, wait a minute. I've been preparing for this 3 days of death and destruction where I was going to cry and crawl. Oh, I practiced it every day, Kelly. I don't know if I was going to fall to the side, to the front. I was practicing how I was going to die. I was doing my best Denzel impersonation. I was looking in the mirror trying to do the same thing he did in Glory. I was like, am I going to do the one tear? You know, when Denzel was being whipped in Glory and he had that one tear. So I was practicing that one tear. I was like, looking in the mirror, trying to get that one tear. So it bothered me because I believe this is the best side of my face. But this eye is the one with the tear. So I had to try to figure out how the best way to do it, right? So the tear, I would practice the tear coming down here, but then turn real fast to get what I thought was my best side of my features, right? And I'm all prepared for this death scene. We don't do it. And I'm like, man, was not thrilled. And then fast forward, when I get offered to do the World War II film, the director talks about the scene that I basically phoned in. He goes, that was the scene that made him realize I was perfect for that World War II film. Which is crazy. I didn't even think about that scene. I was like, fine, let's do this damn scene. Let's do it. Get it out the way. Had no idea that was the scene that changed my life because Jesse V. Johnson has done some amazing work. And we have this bond between, I call him my Quentin Tarantino, and he views me as his Samuel Jackson. I'm in everything. This man comes up with something. He's like, Joseph, you ready? I keep my passport in my coat pocket. When do we go? And so you have no idea what may strike a chord with someone. And so the very scene I thought would change my life didn't. And the scene that I basically didn't focus on, it literally put me in the circle of filmmakers that I created a close bond with. And we have like this little traveling circus that we do, going around the world, making movies.
Joseph, what do you wish that, because you're in junkets, you're constantly getting interviewed, things like that. What do you wish more people would actually ask you? Because they ask you the normal things, and sometimes you could actually even answer them before they ask because you know the questions. But if you were to sit down and say, like, I would love for somebody to ask these questions because this is, I'd love to tell them this part.
I've always said everybody in the world can do something that I can't do. Everybody in the world has an opportunity to do something that I can never do, and that's meet me. Think about it. Everybody can talk to Kelly but Kelly. Wouldn't you love to sit across from Kelly and just ask him, what the hell were you thinking, man? So I would love to hear it from me about some of the choices. What, like, really, Joseph? I would love to just sit back, cross my arms, get me a cup of coffee, and listen to me explain to me the journey. And I think that's something that none of us ever get. We're explaining to everyone else, but we never get a chance to explain to ourselves why we made these choices, why we didn't leap when we should have leaped or leapt. Why didn't we make these strategic moves? Why did we hold on to things that we should have let go a long time ago, whether it's family, friends, lovers, it doesn't matter, opportunities, So I think that's the question. We often say to a certain degree, what would 18-year-old Joseph say to, I get that, but I mean something a little bit deeper than that. Because I think there's something to be said about, like, me sitting with my grandfather and my grandmother and the nuggets they dropped on me. I would love to have that same moment. So it's not a catchphrase, even though I mentioned my grandfather's catchy phrase, but there was so much more to what he brought, and you couldn't just get it in one sentence, But I just think that, if you were to speak with another artist, now, it doesn't even have to be an artist. I think anyone who has a goal, a dream, an aspiration, what would you say to them? And to me, it's just, you can't doubt. There is no doubt. You have to understand, we're working on there's a time limit to this thing, right? I don't know when my number is going to get called for me to check out of here.
Yeah.
So why am I wasting time worrying about what people think about me? Who likes me, who doesn't like me? Everybody has a certain taste. And I'm an acquired taste. I don't know if I met me, if I would like me. I may be like, I liked you better when you stuttered because at least you would shut up from time to time. I would see me differently. I may not be friends with me. That's the interesting thing about it. Some of us have to ask ourselves, because there's some of us that don't realize that if they met themselves, they wouldn't even like them.
Yeah.
And we all know those friends. We have those friends that don't realize that if they met themselves, that other self would be like, man, get away from me. And that's when you have to reevaluate what you're doing. When you start to realize that you may not even like yourself if you met you. That means you really got to reconfigure what you're doing. So it's, Kelly, I'm blessed. I'm a kid from the south side of Chicago who not necessarily had a dream, because it wasn't a dream for me. It was a reality. I just had to figure out how to get there. I think that's the thing. I think everything that we want is there for us. We just got to map quest it. Yeah. We just got to figure out. And MapQuest is more what life is than the old Thomas Guide. If those of you who remember the Thomas Guide, if you don't, ask your parents or your grandparents. It's something that you will find in a gas station, and you will buy a map and you open up that map, and that map would tell you exactly how to get to your destination. But see, life is more like Waze and MapQuest than it is a Thomas guide.
Yeah.
Because you can be driving on MapQuest, and this lady with the British accent is telling you, turn left. Like, I was going right. Because she sees something that you don't see. So when you're listening to Waze, that's life. Waze is actually the perfect example of how life is.
Uh-huh.
You're driving along with Waze, and it could be an accident ahead. Waze is going to tell you, there's an accident 1,200 feet. If the police officer still, you be speeding. Waze is going to let you know. There's a cop around the corner, slow your ass down. That's how life is. You just have to listen, which to me cracks me up. We can listen to Waze, but we can't listen to him.
Joseph, you talked about with your grandfather about having, big goals, things that scare you. When I looked at the IMDb, and I wasn't incorrect on this. I saw something I saw one of your projects from 1989. It was Star Trek, Next Generation. So we're talking about a storied career in upwards of 40 years. This is unreal. So that little kid.
Yes, I mean to cut you off. It's so unreal because I'm only 23. So I really don't understand
exactly
how I have a 40-year career. But anyway, go ahead.
And that I was going to ask what type of lotion that you have, because I honestly, this is unreal to be able to see it. What is the next big thing that right now you're working through, and we can call the shot now? So in the years to come, when it is in play, then you're just like, this was my reality all along.
I just want to impact lives, whether it's inspiring artists, or you don't even necessarily have to be an artist. Just inspiring people to achieve whatever their dreams are. I think the biggest thrill I get is when I get phone calls from around the world from different people reminding me of a conversation that we had that changed their life. Man, that right there is the best gift. Is when out of the blue, someone's like, look here, you don't remember this, Joseph, but one day we were sitting out front, and you was talking. This one young lady said something to me who was this phenomenal business person now, and her shoe sales and business is ridiculous. She goes, remember we sat out front? This is back when I was working at the bar. She goes, we sat on the curb, and you told me about going after what you love and things of that sort. And you sometimes say things to people, and you don't say it to have an effect. You just say it because that's where your heart is at that moment. And you have no idea that people walk away. And sometimes they probably thinking, I wish he would shut the hell up. And sometimes it may resonate with someone. You never know what your words and your experiences and the wisdom or whatever can have an impact on someone. And it is so remarkable that even when I do my work, I don't publicize my work for me. I publicize my work for the people who may have dreams, who do know me, can say, maybe it is tangible. That's the funny thing about it. You can listen to me on an interview and think that me being a marketing whore, as I call myself, is about me, when in actuality, it's about the people watching me. I'm showing them it's doable. Someone is going to get off this podcast and going to go into their job and film some stuff. Somebody's going to get off this podcast, and next Christmas, they're going to have a scene that they didn't have the year before. Somebody on this podcast is going to have a situation that they thought would cripple them, that they would overcome. That's all it is for me, Kelly. I take my life, make it an open book, so people can walk in there like a library and pick things off the shelf that can help them achieve whatever it is that they're looking to achieve. Nothing more.
So I started the podcast because of my two kids, Maddox, who's he's a sports guy. He plays football. He just picked up basketball and loves it more than anything in the world. He played through being sick the other day just because he got some new shoes from his mama. And he is just one of the most optimistic kids I've ever met in my entire life. So I was telling him this morning, encouraging him that way. My daughter actually took up the arts and is now in show choir and theater, and she's singing, dancing, acting, doing that whole nine. And so I started it because of those two, because I didn't want them to worship idols. I just wanted them to be inspired by iconic people like yourself and see that if Uncle Joseph can live out his dream in Hollywood and be one of the hardest working men in showbiz, it's possible. You don't have to be like Joseph, but he can serve as an inspiration. So what advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both their names and call yourself Uncle Joseph, it would be awesome.
Okay. Well, Maddox and McKenna, Uncle Joseph says two things. Number one, your daddy is not as crazy as you may think he is. From time to time, you may wonder, like, what the heck is wrong with my father? But he actually kind of knows what he's talking about. And the things that you will glean over the years, it may not resonate with you right now, but it will make sense later on. So go after your dreams. Watch this man. Watch your mom. Watch everyone in your family and pull things from them. And so when you have challenges, ask yourself, what would my father do? He's not going to quit. And then you try to include that into your mindset. Pull that part of you that's in your DNA out. So everything that you're trying to do, is it Maddox or McKenna that's driving right now?
McKenna,
come home, be safe. Hey, and whatever we young males say, don't believe it. Don't believe it, McKenna. That's all I'm saying. Maddox, enjoy your life. But McKenna, horrible advice. Delete that.
Oh, Joseph, I love you, man. I really asked you before we started, and it is there for me after spending this amount of time with you. I would love to have you on the podcast again. I want to hear about your journeys. I mean, Fire, if you guys haven't tuned into it yet, Fire, we're going to have the link in the bio where you guys can go and enjoy that. There's new projects. What is your newest project that you're working on right now too? Because you're working with Fire, but
Yes.
also you're working on a new project. Tell them.
Ain't No Way. Ain't No Way is a project that I'm doing that I have the pleasure of writing and directing, and it's driving me crazy, and producing and even appearing in. But it's a fun piece, and I'm excited with my talented actresses that I have, Joe Manny and Robbie Danzy and Renee. I'm excited for these ladies, the amazing actresses, and I'm looking forward to that, as well as another project that I just signed on for yesterday. Had to do with NDA, so I can't really say anything about that one, but they're a great little group, and I'll be talking with them tonight again, and it was great to do a table read with them yesterday, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the project goes. It's a great series. Done by a great young director, Antonio. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Yes.
Well, Joseph, you're better than advertised, man. It has been unreal to be able to sit with you, and the part that you talked about, the humor, the humility, and the hunger. I mean, like most people have monikers like that, and then you're like, it doesn't make sense with the person that it is, but it's amazing because if you go back, and I would encourage you to, if you're listening or watching, go back and watch it again and have those 3 words in front of you, and you'll watch a man who actually lives what he talks about, which I think is amazing, Joseph.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm honored that you invited me on to your show. I think what you're doing is fantastic. You know, it was wonderful when I met you at the event, and you know, the way you captivated the audience, and just catching up on all of your podcasts and things that you're doing. I think it's fantastic. Continue to make a difference. You know, really, my brother, continue to make a difference. And I'm honored to even be considered to be on your podcast and anything that you happen to do. So I know you have something coming up, and I know you talked about my things, and I know you talk about doing your show, but I'm going to take over this segment for 30 seconds. But can you tell my people who are watching this show, who normally don't watch The Vibe, but they will from now on, what does Kelly have that's coming up that they can follow? And
well, I appreciate it. On April 12th, we've got the live version of the podcast, which is called The Vibe Room. And there is going to be a Vibe Room coming where Josef Cannon is going to be live in the place with us, and where I get to interview him in front of that audience, which is going to be amazing. But April 12th, we've got that. We've actually got a full day, which is called the Vibe Experience. Baron Baptiste, the man responsible for bringing yoga to America, bringing yoga to the NFL, and selling over $150 million on QVC, is going to be there with you for a day. One of the best coaches in the world, Coach Keith, James Dixon, is going to be there. It's going to be a power-packed day. Yes. Oh, unbelievable. So that's going to be incredible, and more podcasts coming, because honestly, this has been the greatest project I've ever done in my life.
Thank you, Kelly. And, and Mr. Dixon, Superman. For people watching, you guys need to find out who James Dixon is. This story is phenomenal. This man is phenomenal. You will walk out of there feeling chills in your body, and because it was phenomenal to witness and to get to meet him as well. And I'm looking forward to that.
Well, it's an absolute honor. We're going to run a commercial as we go, but I would ask that you stick around for a second once we get done with the commercial. Is that cool, Joseph?
Absolutely. Are you selling Frosted Flakes or Sherman toilet paper? Just check it, man.
We're selling all of them, man. We want you to come. Okay. And I tell you, if you haven't heard of the Vibe Room, my wife, and I tell you this, Joseph, this is funny, because during the pandemic, I told my wife that I had an idea, and she's like, okay, whatever, just move on, because we're about to watch a show. We were watching My Next Guest Needs No Introduction with David Letterman.
Yes.
And my wife is like, okay, tell me the idea so we can just watch the show. And I said, I want to create that show. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, I want to do that show, but I want to add a musical element, and we're actually going to add comedy to it too, where I can interview somebody and do it in front of, a speakeasy jazz club. And that's what we're doing in Salt Lake. So, and that's what you're going to be coming to in one of our future Vibe Rooms, to be able to have you there, and for people to be able to spend time with you and experience you on a personal level, which I think would be amazing.
Thank you. I'm there, man. Just let me know when.
Well, I love you a bunch, man. It has been incredible. Please share this, guys, if you're listening or watching. Please share it with every single person that you know. If they're in the arts, if they're writing, they're directing, or they're a human being and they have air in their lungs. This is one of the most inspirational people that you'll ever be around. And Joseph, you're incredible, man, and you're officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul, man.
Achieving, cause we believing it's for certain. We put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting right before your eyes. So it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised over and over and